This week's podcast, we have Anthony Camardella, eXp Realty, runs a team of fire agents. I call him the silent assassin. I just met him, but he's been doing big things, and now him and I together are doing big things, and I'm pumped up about it. Real honest, straightforward dude, been in the industry a very long time. Bunch of gems in this one. Enjoy. Yeah, kid, welcome everybody back to another episode of Smells Like Cat Pee with
Anthony Camardella at eXp Realty with the A-Team.
No, it's with Handsome, bro.
Oh, well,
Smells Like Cat Pee with Handsome, and that was a fist bump.
There you go.
It's all right. But you are, say it again.
Anthony Camardella with the A-Team at eXp Realty.
So I kind of feel like you're like, after this conversation, even the last one, you're like everything, bro. You're like, today you're like realtor meets stand-up comedian. Like, I feel like you could, I mean, you're funny. Like, you are funny. Like, when somebody lists a house with you, they get experience, market expertise, a dynamite team, and a front row seat to the comedy seller.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, so somebody told me, like, if you're gonna like make it anywhere in business, you gotta keep things fun.
Okay.
And if it's not fun, people are gonna start getting really worried, right? So to keep the stress level down, I tend to try to keep the laughter up, because if you don't, you're gonna lose your mind. This
is a stressful business, especially like, you and I met the other day at a property out east, which hopefully we get to work on.
Right.
But this is our first experience together, and I'm upset that I didn't know you sooner.
You know what? I'm not, because actually after watching so many podcast episodes, the only thing I could think of, I was like, wow, I was like, people really do save the better for like later down the road. So they just, like
Levy's like,
yes, they get some of the other ones out of the way. They get some of the mistakes out of the way. I love what you did with the place. It looks awesome for my arrival. You know, there's a lot of like, you got a lot of good things going now. So I'm glad and I'm honored to be at like this particular episode. I think it's perfect for both of us.
Beautiful. I couldn't agree more. Do you smell spices outside the building as you walk in the door?
It's a little spicy,
yes,
mixed with a tiny bit of work. Like, smells like a little bit of work, like that.
It's like 2x4 mixed with, seasonings.
It's the exact aroma if you took the bowling alley and mixed it with the gym locker room. Like, when you come in, you get that, like,
Jesus,
there's work happening here, Like, it's work. You hear the sweat, you smell it, you know it's happening.
Levy, does it stink in here?
In the beginning, yeah.
It's an acquired taste.
No, you just come in here so much that you don't need to.
They use, kind of like drinking battery acid or something like that.
Is it like the fry kitchen? Hopefully you don't go home with it.
I do, actually.
Do you?
Yeah. I go home and like I'll put my like jacket on and on the chair, I'll pick it up and it'll stink, like a combination of like just mold, cat pee, spices, and sawdust.
Well,
and this is what we do.
Yeah,
but I feel like
have it any other way.
This isn't like kind of along the lines of what we were talking about before. This kind of embodies my persona. Right. So we were talking about before about like, and we're gonna dive into all this cool shit because you and I went at it for like an hour in the street the other day on brokerages, what they do, what they don't do.
And I did get a disclaimer to like stay ultra positive, don't create enemies on this show today, and don't
who gave you the
I had a few friends that were like, listen, like you go off on a tangent sometimes, man. Like, don't leave this show with nothing but enemies looking to gun you down.
You know how I knew that
I'm gonna be good?
No, be real. You know how I know this show is gonna be dope? Because usually what happens is people sit down and I'm like, hey man, listen, anything you don't want to talk about, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I don't give a shit. But when you text me prior and you're like, hey bro, anything off limits? I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Buckle up. It's about to get real.
There's just certain parts of this industry that like you and I instantly connected on, right? And like you've said a couple of times, you're surprised we haven't met yet. Like, and I keep very low profile. Like, I really like the networking events and all that stuff. Like, first off, it's a little too political for my taste. And
I get it.
And if it's not political, it's actually like almost like high school cliquey.
It can be very high schooly. There can be a lot of drama.
Not only that, but like you start to get like, all right, so one thing I find interesting is you go to these events, right? Like you and Eric, right? So Braun, but you don't drink. Like, you're not drinkers, right? And like, I don't know if that's a personal choice due to like maybe an experience that like, you went through, you just don't like it. Okay?
I mean,
not your thing.
Let me ask you a question. Do you really think that booze tastes good?
I think that a certain combination of certain alcohols could have you saying like, why didn't I do this sooner? But
really?
You meet the right bartender, bro. She'll make you a drink that you'll never forget in your life. Like but like I'm a life experience type person.
Okay.
Right? Like that's probably why like I haven't been as successful as I could be in some areas, because like I love life and I love people and I love family and I love certain things that like you can't have while being successful in other fields. Like there's a true sacrifice that you have to make, because they both take time. They both take a lot of time, right?
True.
So if you're going to build a relationship with someone, it's going to take time out of your day. It's going to be hard on both of you, especially if you're already successful. So being really like mindful of it and conscious, and maybe like to a point a little too mindful of it.
Okay.
Like throughout my entire 20s, I got my license when I was 23. So I've been licensed for like 16 years now. So it was an experience where
You're about to hit the big 4-0, huh?
Yeah, I got like 2.5 years left, and
23, 16.
so but I started in the industry a little sooner.
Oh, okay,
so
cool.
I actually got my license in
Got it.
2007. But prior to that,
Oh, so you're 37?
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. That's like a lifetime.
Yeah. So
40's awesome, though. I'm just telling you. It only gets better.
I'm not afraid of it at all.
20s suck. 30s are better. 40s are even better. Now, like, you truly just don't give a fuck, and like you have money, and like you figured it out, and you're better. Yeah.
I feel like I can help people better now.
Yeah.
Because when you're 23, trying to be like, yo, let me help you with life. Well, you haven't really gone through life.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
yet.
you also
Like,
don't know
it's
where the hell
tough.
you fit into the world. Like,
Right.
I meet these these life coaches. I'm like, bro, you can't be 25 and a life coach. You don't know anything.
It's like being an obese trainer,
Crazy.
right?
I mean, nah, you could not want to work out. I feel like,
I
feel like-
couldn't do it.
Really?
You could take coaching advice about losing weight from someone who's hammering down a Big Mac in front of you.
Yes, because here's my theory. We build lots of shit. Like, look at where we work. I owned a body shop before this, a franchise called Mako, right? I drove around in a piece of shit car that had primer and 4 different shades of whatever color was on it. I never painted the goddamn thing. Hopefully, when we leave here, this place is done. It doesn't mean we don't know what we're doing. So you can be a gangster trainer and just be like, F the gym.
You're like the shoemaker's shoe kind of
Exactly.
guy. You're like, hey, my shoes are going to be
I think
shot,
there's
even
some-
though I make really nice shoes.
I think there's something to be said for that. I
Okay.
don't own a house that I live in.
Okay.
I rent an apartment. So, I don't know. There might be something to say for that.
I listen. I get your point. I get your point. I just, it's tough for me. It's tough for me to take that advice from people that really
I get it.
they haven't walked that road yet. So
And there's validity there.
yeah, but I think they do bring a certain aspect, right? Like I think
Okay.
a new agent actually brings a fresh set of eyes on a new market that's been changing anyway.
Okay.
Right? Like I think your friend Dan O'Neill is actually perfect proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who hasn't been around as longer, but actually had a different vision of the way marketing should work, the way
Oh, yeah.
approach should happen, and he's been able to scale. I mean, think of the amount of agents before him. Like I just actually checked, because I always say 28,000 real estate agents, but it's actually 30,000 real estate agents.
Wow.
Right? And we're actually only 1,400 square feet of livable landmass on Long Island.
Wow.
Right? So if you take 30,000 real estate agents and divide it, bro, we got like 21 real estate agents for every 1 square mile on Long Island. Like, it's a problem because it's an oversaturated market filled with opinions of people that don't entirely know what they're talking about.
And then, but to that point, 50% of them don't do a deal.
Right, but that's
In
because
a
the
calendar year.
ante to get into the game is too cheap.
Yes. And I've heard a lot of people say that. A lot of
Yeah.
people saying, jack fees, make the tests harder, whatever you think. But the thing that seems to be like, and I'm with that, like I had considered opening up a brokerage at one point, and I said, you know what? I'm like, I feel like the model is flawed. I don't know if I'm right or not, in the sense when I looked at this, I was like, I'm going to give crazy services. I'm going to charge like a 30% split, and I'm only going to take agents that, net $100,000 a year or more. And I'm going to say, I'm going to take your $100,000 a year and turn you into a 250 person, even though I'm taking 30% because I'm giving you all this resources and education and everything. But in actuality, I think, and I might be wrong, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, the money's really made from the agents that don't do a lot of business, that have the lower splits. Because once you're established, a lot of people are just like, fuck it, I don't need you. I just need the better commission split.
So you're talking to like the United States taxes theory, right? Where like the top 1% don't even pay half what we have as a bill for taxes. Meanwhile, like a majority of the United States pay a majority of the, right? But that's because like 70% of the United States, 70% of the real estate agents that don't produce over the top, right, bear the burden of most of the cost. That's in essence what you're saying. Yeah, but they don't help drive the market. They actually help slow it down.
Okay.
Because you end up stumbling across an agent who maybe only does 1 or 3 deals a year, and I'm not knocking it, but I am knocking the level of commitment that they take to the craft, because they don't educate themselves to make your deal or my deal any easier than it could be, right? Like, so if they're educated and they're not holding up the transaction flow, we'd actually probably sell more real estate in volume.
That's interesting.
So actually, I think that more people would make more money if the entire group of them was educated, and if we started weeding out those who really want to do this as a profession versus those who kind of want to do this as like a hobby.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with a hobby, but then at least let the professional take the wheel and say, look, I want to drive the race car only on the weekends, but Monday through Saturday, we're going to let Tom Petty do his thing, right? Like we're not going to try to step behind the wheel every day of the week. So for me, with like new agents and stuff like that, they are my favorite part of this business. I love
That's cool.
new agents. I think that we have to prepare them for the changing marketplace. I don't think it's going to look the same. You look at companies like Zillow, you look at all these AI buyers, right? Like these people that just go out there and they're just buying based off an algorithm and saying
That
like,
shit ain't gonna work.
it's not, but it is causing a little bit of a ruckus in the market, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
only
like
in the short term, though, I think. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But I mean, things are definitely going to evolve. And if agents aren't willing to provide better service, like, they're going to be screwed.
But to get back to your split, what I feel is really necessary to get agents to grow is by incentivizing them. And a lot of brokers, by taking that 50%, I'm going to tell you from a person who, when I got in at 23, like, you could go to a broker and beg them for a higher split. They're not giving it to you, right? And they'll just be like, look, like, I don't care about your problems. Like, oh, you got higher bills. Like, oh, you got family issues. You got this.
Yeah.
But they need it, right? Like they need it. So
With the brokers or the agents or both?
the agents,
Okay,
the agents,
got it.
because like some brokerages, I get it. It costs a lot of money to run a business. I bear the cost for my team every day. I know what it's like to buy leads. I know what it's like to pay overhead. Like I get the
Most
cost.
brokers aren't doing any of that stuff, though. I mean, yes, they have the overhead of the physical, but I don't know many brokers that are buying leads and shit for their people.
Well, all right. So I've been privileged to work at a lot of different companies, and I'm not going to name them by name because I don't want to make enemies. All right, but like some of these bigger companies, right? Like they do have lead routing systems, which you will get like company branded leads from them, so they will keep leads in your pocket.
But are they paying for those? Are they directly marketing to bring people in, or is that just a result of just their overall brand?
I'm sure the CEO of Remax would argue that he's paying for those ads when they go up on TV and stuff. So if the agents are directly benefiting from the trickle down effect of what's coming through, and you're a Remax agent somewhere, probably getting Remax sponsored leads from the big balloon ad that shows up every once in a while, that's a company given ad, right? Like that is a company given lead. And if you don't have to go out there and generate that, you're a lucky person. Like I think agents need to start with that kind of platform to have that grow, because they don't have a sphere of influence. They don't know the prospecting techniques yet. They're not good enough on the phone. They're going to get hung up on. They're going to get discouraged. Like the new parts of being an agent and a salesperson, especially, they're tough.
No, that's true.
So to have that little oomph from a bigger brokerage, I think helps.
Does that really happen though? Like I know a lot of new agents. I know a lot of agents. You know a lot of agents. I don't know that many agents that are like, hey, we're getting fed lots of leads.
All right. So here's what we were saying before, and this is, maybe you'll understand because I can get a little abstract sometimes, so I'm sorry, but I'm going to try to stay on point with this one. The agents that complain the most, I find, and you can interview a lot of brokers and they'll probably back me up on this one, are usually like the ones who are least active in the brokerage. They don't show up for trainings. They don't show up for monthly meetings. They don't pay attention when the monthly meetings are happening. They like grab their coffee from the back. They grab their donut. They're more than happy with that. And they sit down and they literally just start talking through the entire meeting with the person next to them, like, oh, did you know my daughter, like, and this is the kind of work that they do when they show up to the office. And then they go and they bash the broker for having no support, no training, no this, no that. And I will say, and I could be really fair in saying this, I have yet, except with the exclusion of mom and pops that just don't have the systems in place, I have yet to come across a big name brokerage that doesn't have the systems in place for a today starting agent to at least start.
What about the training?
Training is worst part of our industry. Right, but that starts with like the schooling it takes to get your real estate license. 75 hours of legal babble that never teaches you how to fill out a binder. And I'm not saying it's not necessary. We need to know about like meets and bounds and important things that are actually like really applicable in the day to day. But you're going to send somebody out of 75 hours of coursework and not teach them how to write a sales agreement?
Valid point.
And then you're going to get to a big name brokerage, and again, not naming anyone specifically, but I've interviewed a lot of agents now after moving to my new brokerage, and the one thing that comes up over and over again is like, well, they don't give me any training. And we're talking about companies that pride themselves,
of course,
well, we have the most training, the most technology, like this and that, but like you look at the application of the agent and it's not seeping in.
So the question is, so what's the issue? Is the issue that it's not really being provided? Is it that the agent is not taking advantage of it, or what?
got to be 50-50, right? Ownership has to be on the person who's got to be willing to pursue it, because I think the real active agents, they don't stay in an environment like that, or they rise to the top and they end up being in a brokerage where somehow some people are succeeding, but yet this person over here is just never getting off the ground.
Yeah.
And that's because I think the training, and I've made this mistake before too, training is not a blanket thing. No. You can't train every agent the same.
True. I mean, it's the same thing like the school system, but then you look at like the brokerage model in general and you say, does that make sense? Based on like, and that's why when I was designing my fictitious brokerage in my head, I'm like, I'm bringing in top performers who already know. I'm going to give them all these things that they don't get, and I'm going to take the money to cover it so that it makes sense. But if you're a broker, who's going to be training your people? And if they were like amazingly stellar, they'd be out there killing it, selling houses on their own. So it just seems like it's a broken model. And then if you want to bring in experts every month or every 2 weeks or whatever it is to discuss, social media, or sales trade, whatever it is the money there?
I actually think the most dangerous thing of opening a brokerage and then kind of like watering and feeding and nurturing talent is that at one point in time, like that talent's either going to take off and outgrow you and the brand, and loyalty comes into question.
But that doesn't bother. Does that bother you?
All right, so here, it's twofold. I want to see everyone succeed.
Okay.
I am like a rising tide lifts all ships kind of person.
Okay.
Everyone across the board, I want to see them all do well. But I do think that there's something to it in the way that like, I personally put a lot of stock into someone that I'm helping.
Got it.
Right, transition out of, and I've helped people from like Marshalls, right, leave the retail job to come and like they're actually working from home with their kids, right? So this is a major life change. They no longer have to clock in 9 to 5. They are making sufficient amount of money where they don't need to be in a retail setting anymore.
Yes.
Now it's time to work on like a team or a brokerage plan. So you're a brokerage, you're opening it up. What are your expectations?
Okay.
Like what are your goals? Do you want to be the number one brokerage on Long Island, or are you just looking to give an average place where people can just come, do their 3 deals a year, and that's going to make you happy? Because that business model that everyone's kind of hoped on, and I think that's probably the flaw, is that it became like a popular thing to do. Let's open a brokerage, give a 50-50 split. 50% of the real estate agents are going to produce, 50% of them are going to bring in maybe 1 deal a year, and I'm going to make a little residual and a little roll over off of each one of those people. That's essentially like, really you're just spinning your wheels to pay your overhead to keep the business open, and that's why you see so many brokerages close up, fail, and like shut down. But the models needed changing for a long time, which is the only way that like Zillow was ever able to get in at all, was that MLSLI, right, which is owned by LIBOR, didn't make a push to like make it pretty. Right, so MLSLI during like 2000s when Zillow was really pretty to look at a house, it sucked. Yeah. I think the same thing happens for brokerages. They don't make them look pretty enough. When I moved to EXP, it was really pretty looking.
Okay.
Right, and I don't want to make this like a plug for EXP for 20 minutes or anything like that, but there's some really core things to understand about EXP that just don't exist anywhere else. One of the things is the company has no debt. So from a business perspective, if I'm going to get into business with somebody and they're going to take any percentage of my income per year, what does their business look like? It doesn't have any debt because it doesn't hold any brick and mortar offices. I think that, writings on the wall for brick and mortar offices, they were very necessary when LIBOR opened back in 1936 and the Long Island Railroad was still being expanded into parts of Long Island. You needed an office at every railroad stop. That's how they started.
Yeah.
You don't need that anymore.
No, of course.
Right? Like, the for sale sign is nice, but does the for sale sign sell the house? So you got to give agents something that like works for them. So we have stock compensation, right? You know the model, you've had to have heard it before, right? So, and it's virtual based, it's a competitive commission split for starting agents, and I know what it was like to sell my first house and then watch the broker take 50% of it, because 9 times out of 10, if it's not the broker's lead, it's probably a personal referral that I got on my own. So it kind of like starts the entire relationship off with, but it's all me.
Yeah.
So why am I paying you half?
Exactly. 100%. I always say, like, my thing is, I feel like brokerages, it's like the fitness industry. Did we talk about this the other day or no?
A little bit. We touched on it, and then we were like, we should probably do a podcast and finish this conversation there.
Okay. So, makes sense. So, I feel like you have agents jump from brokerage to brokerage to brokerage. But brokerages become very fatty, like shiny object syndrome, like in the fitness world. Like, oh, first it's CrossFit, then it's like spin, then it's this and it's that. And then people are complaining about why they're not in shape or why they're not doing enough business. And in actuality, like, more people have to look inside themselves of what they're actually doing, and training plays a part of that, yes. But what am I doing as an agent? to go out there and generate leads. Like you have people like you and the top producers that are generating a shit ton of leads. You have a family, you have a lot of things you have to manage, and then there are people that have none of that and aren't doing any business, but they're complaining.
I personally feel like, you know, there's a place in the world for them. I don't know if it's real estate, you know, but like if you're not doing any business and you're just complaining, I don't get the point. Like I try to remind all my agents, this is voluntary. No one's got a gun to your head. Like you thought of this. This was your idea. You went out and got a license before even meeting me. Yeah, all day long, man. Like my Zoom meetings, if they ever made it public, like I don't know if anybody would join the team or if I'd have an influx of people looking to join the team just to get it raw. Some people really don't produce every year because they're just scared. Isn't that a funny thing?
Yeah. I mean,
right? Like fear holds them back, right? So a real conversation that I've had with them repeatedly lately has been, are you more afraid of being homeless than you are of talking to a stranger? Because like at the end of the day, what we do is interact with strangers every day in and out, right? Like if you got a significant other in this business and they don't do this for a living, trust me, the conversations are going to come up like, why do you have to meet so many strangers? Like, why do you got to meet this person at 5:30 on a Friday night? You know what I mean? Like, well, this is an agent looking to possibly make a move. This is the business. Like, well, why do you have to meet them at a bar? Well, because they don't want to meet at their office because their broker doesn't know that they might be moving. This is like, you got to go hide in a hole somewhere and have them vent why they don't love where they are.
Yeah.
It's tough, right? Like, so no one's forcing you to do this. It's not $1 million listing. I am not Ryan Serhant. Like my day does not start off with cameras and like greatness and all this awesome stuff, man. Like, it starts off with like some person calling me and being like, I don't understand why the attorney's not answering their phone. I don't like, it's not glamorous. It gets tough. So if you're, I could think of a million other things to do for $50,000 a year that doesn't require being a real estate agent, along with the stress, the nonsense, and everything else. So I guess I don't really have an opinion on those people as much as I have a question for them, which is just why? Like, are you a masochist? Like, what do you enjoy about showing up to something that could be unfulfilling for you? You don't produce, you don't make any money from it. It costs you money. The interactions that you have generally are scary. You're afraid of it. Right? You don't love prospecting. You don't love door knocking. You don't love dialing the phone. There are parts of this business that just aren't glamorous, right? And you'll find a lot of real estate agents don't love being a salesperson. So if you don't like it, why do it?
I think they were, I think they thought it was going to be something that it wasn't. I think that's probably the answer.
And if they want it to be that, because I have an idea of what that is, then they should join a well-oiled machine of a team. Because they can almost have that lifestyle. If you want to just show up and just show houses, find a solid team leader that literally just books your appointments for you and all you're doing is just going and opening doors, right? But understand the compensation is going to be very low for that kind of pay. Like that's the job you're doing. You're just opening doors. You're going to get like 25% of the deal and the broker's going to keep 75% of it because he's doing all of the legwork.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, and my thing is like, listen, something's only expensive in the absence of value. So like, as we were beating around before, the growing people to leave thing, that never bothered me, because I kind of feel like if you're doing the right thing for somebody, they're going to stay, or they're going to grow to a certain point where like it's really beneficial for them to leave and we wouldn't want to hold them back. But they've made you money and grown, like they've made me money and grown my business in the process. So like I see both sides of it. Yeah,
I guess it's I approach every single one of my team members as a partnership. I really don't like the employee-employer. I'll never sit on the opposite side of a table of someone. I'll always sit, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like that feeling. I think it's, especially with real estate, we're independent contractors. You're 1099. Like, how am I going to sit here and call your boss, right? It's not a W-2. So,
but regardless, like I always say when I introduce somebody or I talk about somebody, I say we work, like he or she works with me. I don't say they work for me.
Right.
I don't think it's appropriate.
100%. So I guess, my expectations are always long-term. I think very long-term about everything. I've been very patient. Like I am... we had a conversation about an idea that I've had and you were like, dude, you should implement that. Like, you should actually start building that out.
Yeah, that was dope.
I think it's definitely something I'm going to, but I feel like timing's everything with certain things, right? And like 10 years ago, when I started writing that, people were laughing me out of the room. No one called it dope. People were like, that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. Like, why would you reinvent the wheel? And I said, I'm not. I'm just marketing the wheel a little differently because the wheel is going to stay the wheel. The market's the market, right? So there are things that need to change. Brokerages are one of them. Training is one of them. The way people approach the industry and come into it with expectations, I think, is a big thing that we have to start setting expectations correctly.
See, I don't think you'll ever get anybody's universal approval on that until somebody else does it and it's working. So like, if that is, and I don't know if it is, but if that is like your barometer for pushing forward on that, getting a certain level of like kind of acceptance from peers, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
It wasn't even peers. It was like I went to a guy to like, dude, we'll talk about it, but the software and everything, like, yeah, like he was like, he's like, oh, what you're trying to do is too complicated. Like it's not gonna. And I like in my head, I was real simple about it. I was like, dude, this is what I need. I need like, yeah. But
I mean, I think we don't have to get into the idea, but I think you are right. I think these people that you're talking to are wrong. The question is, do you believe in it enough to deal with that?
It's actually, again, it's like it's been a conversation I haven't had with anybody for 10 years. Like,
wow, really?
Dude, I wrote this in 2010.
I mean, it was really smart.
I did it in 2010 when things started changing, right? So let's talk about experience and why it actually plays a big part. So surviving 16 years, right? Like I should get the shirt made, survived the 2008, 9, 10 real estate market, and I'm still here to talk about it. Like if you made it through that and you figured out how to make money during that time period, honestly, it's like New York. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Like now, any real estate agents that have been around that long, like you're probably not going anywhere because you saw some of the worst stale inventory. Like I've been trying to prep my agents, like you're really spoiled. Like you put a house on the market, it sells in 2 weeks and then it closes in 60 days. And if you're thinking that's the way real estate works, like you're getting spoiled. The way real estate used to work was an average time of 60 to 90 days on market for marketing time period. Then you go into contract, and an average time period of 60 to 90 days. That was 2008, 9, and 10,
wow,
where you were like 160 days out for a single deal. So now you're like looking at a cycle of 6 months for your sales life, and that's not what we've been living for the past 24 months, right? Like it's been rock star lifestyle. Throw that nice listing on the market, get that thing sold, and it's money in the bank in 60 days. But it's training people really incorrectly because they're going to think that like, well, the money's going to replenish itself, but it doesn't.
No, that's true. And I put myself in that boat. Like I haven't been around long enough. I did not see what went on there. I wasn't in real estate at the time.
Well, you're going to be so happy when it happens again because, there were nothing but foreclosures and short sales, right? So short sales, if you're a new agent, you sell a short sale, you're like, yeah, I sold a house. It's going to be a short sale mitigation for maybe 12 months, right? Maybe the quickest I ever had done was 90 days, right? Start to finish for a short sale, but the longest one I ever had was 18 months, right? Yeah. So a new agent thinks they just sold a house. It's one of the most, I think, discouraging things for new agents is the pay structure, the time period that it takes to get established.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it's true. And then, I mean, on the residential side, at least now the sales, to your point, are quicker. If you're on the commercial side, most of those people are going, really far. You're talking about 6, 12, 18 months without getting a paycheck, and that's why we don't have a lot of commercial agents.
Commercial's weird on Long Island right now anyway, though, right? Because I've been driving by some stuff that I always wonder, like, why is that empty? Like, that seems like a great, like, you know the Bohemia Oakdale area?
Not super well.
Okay, all right. So if you go down Bohemia Oakdale, there's a shopping center that used to have Sports Authority, Kmart, Bed Bath & Beyond in it.
Okay.
Now it just has Bed Bath & Beyond, and there's like 32,000 square feet and maybe more of just empty storefront on Sunrise Highway.
Okay.
Right? That, you would consider prime real estate. There's nothing to take its place. So is it the Amazon effect that stuff is just, there's no storefronts to take their place? So why would you want to be in commercial if you don't have Kmart or Walmart calling you like, hey, we need another store? Because I would think being a commercial agent 20 years ago when they needed the stores would have been awesome, right?
I mean, there's a lot to that. So are we talking about why would somebody want to be a commercial agent? Or are we talking about why commercial is jacked up? Or what are we talking about specifically?
I think that my question, I think I'm just one and the same right now on that one. I think right now in this time period, right now, the way commercial is on Long Island, coming out of pandemic and everything that we're going through, is commercial the way to go if you're a real estate agent looking at it in the way of like when I got my license in 2007 and the market started crashing, they're like, do you really want to get into real estate right now? Like I kind of have the same sentiment, like, is commercial really the move if you're looking to make money right now?
So let me address some of those points. I think if you need to make money quickly, I think that brokerage has to develop a residential gradually leading to commercial type of model. So I think they have to train them as residential, get their experience, get them putting some money in their pocket because it's quicker turnaround time, and then train them properly. Because listen, commercial and residential, totally different animal. Residential is 100% emotional, commercial is 100% numbers, and that's it. So that's the thing. I think you need to bring agents in. If you want to develop either you're going to have like a Marcus and Millichap type of setup where you're just like, we don't care, you're not making any money. If you can stick it out for 6, 12, 18 months, then God bless. If not, whatever. So there's that. I think to be successful there, you have to bring them into residential, get them getting paid, get them talking to people, and then train them into that. So that's one. 2, the commercial world is totally jacked up. Real estate in general is the most dated, anti-tech, just in the Stone Age type of industry to begin with. Commercial is even worse.
Yeah.
You have 300 commercial agents, only a handful of them do any deals. It's like a good old boys club. They don't share information. It is bullshit. The ecosystem sucks.
And can we just touch on that? Because I'm glad you brought that up, because it like folds right into the entire like context of this conversation. Like, so when you're a real estate agent, right, and you come across a commercial deal and you go to the broker like, hey, I've never handled this before, I want to list a commercial property, like, again, like we talk about like real assistance and real coaching and real education, 9 times out of 10 in my experience, they give you to the commercial agent.
Yeah.
And that commercial agent takes almost over 50% of the deal because they know what they're doing, and they're like, thanks for the referral, pat you on the head kind of thing. And it was like, and then but there's like, they don't teach you. They're not showing you how they're listing it. They're not showing you the paperwork. They're not showing, like, they still safeguard it in that way. So where's the opportunity
100%.
for growth for any of the new agents?
100%. And that's why I look at it like, is the model broken? Is it not? Because here's the thing. I have a master's from NYU in real estate development. That doesn't make me special. All that means is I've been privy to be around some of the highest level people in the industry in New York, which is like the center of the universe for this stuff, in my opinion. Every commercial agent I talk to, almost all of them, they don't know any of this shit, bro. They're salespeople, yes, but like commercial real estate is you have to really know what you're doing. It's a real craft.
Yeah.
And the training isn't there, maybe the desire to be good at your craft isn't there, whatever it is. But if you don't go through like an NYU program type of program, or maybe something that's a year long, that's really intense, there's no way you can be a great commercial agent.
I've heard you say that, and I've heard you also give that credit to being a solid investor too. Just having a basic understanding of like the real parts of real estate. And I say that with respect to my own craft, right? Because I'm a real estate broker, and I don't think what I do is not real. But I think there's an entire another level as to what we do, which it takes a little bit more refining and a little bit more education, a little bit more understanding of what we're doing
on the commercial
side. I think even on like, there are parts of residential that I will gladly say, like, I have to call someone in on this because, I have experience in subdivision. I have experience in some building. My dad was a general contractor. My mom was a mortgage broker. That's how I got into this business.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
It's in the blood, man.
Yeah. So they're like, you might as well just stay clean and sell houses.
But to your thing too, like, I'm not putting commercial and residential together. Like,
right.
Commercial and residential is very, very separate. I mean, it's like 2 completely different industries, even though you're selling real estate.
Yeah.
So there's tiers to residential agents as well. It's just a matter of how dedicated are you to your craft within what you like.
Yeah.
Some people might not like commercial. Like, I know people that are great agents, like amazing agents, and they're like, I don't want to do commercial because I don't like the lack of emotion of it.
Yeah.
And then some people are like, I don't want to deal with people freaking out about this and that and being so emotional. I want to deal with the numbers. So whatever, lends yourself to your personality best.
And if you're a new agent, like watching this, having grass is greener on the other side syndrome, I'm just going to tell you, like, please just focus on one thing that you really like about this business and just do that.
100%.
Like, just do that, because a lot of the times, and I've done this to my agents before, and I actually had to apologize to them for it, like, I could spit for over an hour the 9 million ways you can make money in real estate. It doesn't mean you should do all of them.
100%.
Right? So, like, I found what I like to do, and I just do it a lot, right?
Yeah.
And that's, there's batting coaches, there's pitching coaches, and we all play our part. I think a lot of people lose a lot of time and money because they try to jump into a different role. They want to be a batter, and then they want to be a pitcher, and then they kind of want to just play around a lot.
No, you're 100%. And I am absolutely guilty of that myself, especially if you have like an entrepreneurial spirit and you're in something and you see that there are deficiencies or opportunities, you want to get involved, but in actuality, it's like nobody has enough time for that. And a lot of times, like, the financial aspect, it doesn't make sense.
You lose a lot of money chasing things.
Like, I own Captain Permit. Captain Permit exists because I need to get my own permits done, not because it's like a massive revenue generator.
Well, and there's, with respect to the actual good expediters on Long Island, I'm not bashing anybody, but like, there's a lot of bad ones too, right? So you call the wrong expediter and he's like, yeah, he's working on it. 6 months later, he's taking money from the client. He hasn't filed for anything. It's like, you deal with the bad, you deal with the wrong, and then you see the gap in the industry and what's needed. And I respect what you did with Captain Permit because honestly, like, it had to be done.
I guess the big thing that I think everybody has to realize is there has never been more opportunity everywhere than now.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like what you do with that opportunity.
Right, and that's one thing that I've been really focused on. So the opportunity for me comes in the way that we have a huge generational gap in real estate. I don't think people realize it, but like when I got into the industry 15 years ago, the average age of the person was like 55, and she was a woman who sold 7 houses a year. That was the statistic. That's changed incredibly now, right? I know the age has dropped by over a decade of the average age of a real estate agent in New York. It's significantly lower than it was, because I was in a room filled with people like twice my age all the time. And you know, for the new agents that are listening to this, and if you're younger, do yourself a favor. It's always nice to be a nice person, but do you know how much time I spent like fixing the office copy machine because I was the young guy in the room and it wouldn't connect to like someone's Wi-Fi? Like, tell me where in a broker's split, you know, is compensation for like fixing the printer, you know, or like the nice lady in the office needs a ride to the airport and it's JFK at 6 a.m. right? And like, it's good to be nice, but I learned my lesson the hard way of being a doormat nice when you're a new agent and you're young and you're just trying to like learn from people. You know, it's not Mr. Miyagi wash the car and learn how to block. That's not what that all is sometimes. You're just fixing a friggin' printer to fix a printer. There's no lesson to be learned there. You don't walk out like, I now know how to sell real estate. That's not what that happens. So that's the kind of stuff that like if we could audit, you and I would go around to brokers right now and just start walking into offices and say like, all right, what's happening in here? I guarantee you would find a bunch of like whirlwind activities that don't actually produce any money. And the brokers are blaming the agents for not working, but they're not actually sitting them down and saying, hey, have you ever prospected before? Do you know how to circle prospect? Do you know how to make calls? Have you ever practiced this script? Should we practice some dialogue on each other before you dial a homeowner? They don't do it. And I've met with a few of them and I offered training programs, and you know what they always say? They all say the same thing. They're like, look, we got in-house training. All right.
I mean, to me, like, you're an independent contractor, yes, but like, if I'm a broker owner, I'm not taking everybody. Like the traditional broker owner model is like anybody who comes in, like just take them. If they do deals, great. They don't cost you any money. Pulse
in a 75-hour course. That's all it takes.
For me, that doesn't make sense because you're taking away. It's quantity over quality. So you're taking away, you know, the time and the resources you could be spending to dedicate to people who are going to actually use it. It just doesn't make sense. So that's my thing. So it's like, hey, you have to be making X amount here. You have to be doing X amount of volume. You have to show up for meetings, whatever it is. Like there are all these performance indicators that you have to hit. And if not, it just doesn't make sense. But
so you had Kyle Kelly on this show once, and he said he said it best. Like our industry is self-regulated. Yeah. Right, so like
it's like the Wild Wild West, bro.
But dude, I could drive myself crazy with this stuff because I'm a rule follower because I think that rules are important.
Okay.
Right? I do think rules are important. There's a reason why your team logo is not supposed to be bigger than the company name. There's a reason for it, right? Because it's misconception.
Got it.
It paints it, and I just want the public to be aware, right? Because I'm huge on this, right? So how many signs out there only bear the logo of the team and not even the company, or even better, the logo is twice the size and the company name's like all the way down here, right? There's all these things, and then caps on team. The caps per team for Department of State for New York State is 10.
Okay.
You're not supposed to have more than 10 people on your team.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Right. So when you see these teams of like 25 people doing 250 deals a year, I hope that the general public really understands that's only 10 houses per person.
They have no clue.
Right? So when you see an independent agent who works with 3 people, Navy SEAL style, SEAL Team 6, and they crank out 70 houses a year, right? Like, and 3 of them are doing all that work. It's a lot different than looking at a 20-person team doing 250 deals a year. The number's impressive. 250 reviews a year are impressive, but look at what you're doing. You're taking an office the office used to do that production. Now it's being done by the team. So the team that has 25 people under it, right, or 20 people under it, a subsidiary of an office, is out there in the perception's eye that this team is the place to go over the office itself. So when we were talking about it before, I wonder how many brokerages are really investing in these people and their teams who are then able, because of the marketing, because they didn't follow Department of State rules, because they have the market share in their favor and all the agents in their favor, when they up and walk out with 20 agents and leave the broker paying the overhead on a 3,000 square foot office that they helped them nourish and build themselves in. I get what you're saying. You want to see success for people, but where where does the broker get the return on the investment?
But I would argue that the broker wasn't giving the value, and that's why it happened. Like when you're saying why is the team name bigger than the brokerage, if I'm somebody who loves my broker and I appreciate everything he or her have done for me, and I'm going to be proud to bear that name.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be, the subsidiary of that, but I'm going to be so proud of that.
So the evolution from like Sirhan to Nest Seek, from Nest Seekers to Sirhan, you would say was like just a natural evolution to watch this guy grow, have a company name behind him, and then open his own brokerage, because at one point in time he out-leveraged the company that grew him.
True, but there's going to be a certain percentage of people that do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the overwhelming majority. Like there's only one Ryan Sirhan.
For sure. I know we're talking about an exception to the rule, but I do think if you look around Long Island and you can do like a little micro analysis of each office.
Yeah.
Look at how many houses the entire office sells versus the top team sells.
Yeah.
Dude, it's very close. So when we talk about when we talk about the 80 other agents in the office carrying 50% of the workload, not really anymore. Like really not really, because they're probably now working on a team with a diluted split, so the broker is not taking 50% of that anymore. Instead, they're on an 80% split with the broker, and now I'm, let's say, at an office with an 80% split, and now I have a team, so I'm able to pay my agent 40%, and now the broker's only getting 20% from the top producer. So that lady brings in her aunt's listing, which her and I are now going to split, which I will take 40% of. The broker's only going to see the 20%, where the old model, the way we were talking about it before, which, like you said, it's a little flawed. It's still flawed, except now it's like it's almost exponentially leveraged because you have an agent who has the entire sphere of influence to themselves, right? And they have their agents who were bringing in the deals that the brokers used to make the 50% override on, but they're not making it anymore.
But here's the deal. So I kind of feel like you make your own bed. I kind of feel like the brokers created the environment to allow that to happen because they themselves weren't giving an agent coming into a team, right? And again, not all teams are created equal. Some are great and they really make sense.
100%.
But a lot of times you're coming in and you're getting 25, 30, 40% of you bringing your aunt's listing. But you're doing that because a new agent's coming in and they're looking around saying, how do I do this? Who can help me? And nobody's there.
So to put it back, I guess it would fall on the brokers that don't want to put in the work and fill out the binder.
Without
for the
a doubt.
50%.
But I would say that's the overwhelming majority of brokers that I've experienced. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Which is probably why, some of the well-known names, like you said, you feel like it's always a fad, right?
Yeah.
So I maybe I'm wrong when I say this. I don't feel like Century 21s are as prevalent as they used to be, right? Like I think they probably were a little more successful back in the 80s and 90s than they're doing right now here in our local market. Maybe somewhere else they're killing it. But it's the refusal of the broker to adapt to the change in times, right?
Without a doubt.
So what happens in the gap? Because you're talking about people that, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, I hope I am, but I feel like they all come from the same club.
Okay.
You said Old Boys Club before, right? I happen to know that a lot of brokers that I know, that some of them have 3 or 4 offices here on Long Island, they know other brokers from a time where they were real estate agents.
Yeah.
So they just progressively grew into the broker spot. So they're at an age now where, and this is just like a generational observation, right? You got to figure that the generation ahead of us is getting ready to retire.
Yeah.
Right? Real estate happens to be one of those things you don't actually have to retire from. It's very easy to own a brokerage.
Forever.
Literally
forever.
Right? So maybe the refusal to hand that off to someone to manage correctly, who sees it in the new light, the fresh light, fresh set of eyes, is what's killing brokerages, because some of them are remaining in the position of not only owner, but coach just a little too long. But I
think it's just overall complacency. It's and the market always decides, right? So we put a house on the market. It doesn't matter what you or I or the homeowner wants to list it at. The market is going to decide what it's worth. At the end of the day, a broker is going to open up a brokerage and they're going to provide or not provide certain services, and the market is going to decide how they feel about it, if they want to stay, what commission they're willing to pay, etc. So I would argue that people, and you and other people that have really great teams, there's a reason why people are there. You're creating a culture, creating an environment. People will stay in situations where they're making less money than they can because they value the energy, the atmosphere, the support.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it's far and few between the amount of places that actually offer that.
Without a doubt.
I've gone through a lot of different offices, and I can say that to find that energy and to find that, and that doesn't mean that they're not great people. Like, they're great. Like, I will say individually, each and every person that I've met, they've been like decent people. They're not bad people.
Of course.
But the adaptation of like how to survive in today's real estate market, which is what we're training the new generation of agents to do, it's changing, but yet they're still continuing to do the same thing.
And I think this is kind of like the overwhelming thing that I can relate to a bunch of different industries, which is there's a difference between being a plumber and being awesome at it and running a plumbing company. There's a difference between being an amazing real estate agent and being a broker.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's
Yeah.
a different skill set, and you have to put yourself in a different like mindset to do that.
And I think because of the increase in popularity in teams, I don't think we'll see as many brokerages pop up in the future. I think that majority of them will be teams under some brokerages or teams that turn into brokerages themselves. That's probably what I would think. And I think it's actually going to go back a little bit, to be honest. Like, I think we'll go back to the boutique service in the way of like, you want the local professional who knows the area. And it's funny because like still to this day, people will ask for what I think is very traditional real estate. They want a tour, right? They want, can you take me around and show me? And that's traditional real estate, but it's not.
I think it really depends on how an agent markets his or herself, and I think that is something that is severely lacking. Like, and again, it goes back to training. What kind of marketing are you doing? What kind of process are you doing? What kind of brand building are you doing?
Which is different now, right?
Yes, very different.
So it's, you teach them how to send postcards still, and it's kind of like you're teaching them a dying craft. I think, door knocking's got its days limited, right? We're under a state of emergency for gun violence right now. Most people don't know that.
No clue.
Okay, so we're under a state of emergency right now for gun violence, and we're supposed to, as per the state, we're supposed to not be cold calling or door knocking right now.
Oh, yeah,
They're really trying to kill real estate agents and salespeople door to door because they're taking away the two best ways. Like, think of someone like Brian Karp. How many doors does Brian Karp knock
Jesus Christ.
a year, man?
Yeah, Jesus.
And you're going to take somebody like that and tell him, nah, no more knocking doors. It's dangerous. Right? Like, you're going to stop Brian Karp from knocking doors because of gun violence? I don't think so. I think he's probably still going to knock doors, right? Like, and not say that he's definitely out there doing it. I'm sure he's not. He's definitely following Department of State mandates because he's a good guy like that. So I don't doubt that. But the reality of the situation is like, look at how many external forces are trying to kill not only brokerages but salespeople just in general. So how do you navigate around that landscape? You have to have a different platform.
True, but the thing is, like, that kind of stuff bothers certain people. I know it doesn't bother you, and it really doesn't bother me because I just feel like with restrictions come other opportunity, and you're just constantly moving your way through this maze of things that pop up in front of you.
To be really clear, because maybe I got off a little bit, but like, I am a really patient person, and what I have been waiting for very patiently is for this very slowly dying traditional brokerage thing to just take its last breath.
But my question to you would be, why are you patiently waiting, and why aren't you just blowing the frickin' doors off of it?
Because there's time for everything, and I think that I've been really selfish in ways with my personal life that I think a lot of people wouldn't be willing to admit that you have to be if you want certain things, right? Like, so my personal relationships with certain groups of people are iron. I've never missed a phone call for some people in my life. Like, they just get me on the phone. I've never missed major opportunities. And I know, and I've watched enough successful people say, like, yeah, I wasn't there for that. I had to miss that. I was working. I had to, there's that sacrifice you have to be willing to make.
I get it.
And I've always struggled with, like, that kind of conquest, going out there and ripping the doors off the entire industry, right? Like, I struggle with, why do we charge commission based on the entire volume amount and not the equity that the homeowner's walking away with? You as an investor, have you ever paid more in commission than you've walked away from a table as? You're a good investor.
Fortunately, no.
Fortunately, you're a good investor. But I've had investors literally sever entire relationships with me because my check was bigger at the closing table because they made a bad purchase.
Yeah, but
it's not my fault. I know what you're about to say. It's not my fault.
I'm on your side 180% on that. Like, meaning, I think you deserve the commission. I don't think you deserve a lesser split because the investor didn't do the right job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got it done. But what about the homeowners who are really struggling, who need it? I don't think we make enough concessions in certain areas, and that's why we're being faced with what we're facing with, why companies like Zillow and things like that are able to sneak in. They're not going to survive. Clearly, they're going to die, right? It was a flawed buying. The iBuying was a flawed design. You agreed with it. You went out publicly and saying it.
It's definitely a warning to the industry. Like, you better, I think it wasn't, I think this is the warning to the industry saying, yo, you better change or something will come through that will work and you guys are screwed.
You're optimistic. I think the writing's already on the wall that it's changing right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
And the people who aren't adapting and aren't seeing it, they have the blinds on. Like, no, we're going to weather this storm.
I'm with that.
Traditional brokerages will be here after the dust settles. Nah, they really won't, because a company like EXP that's gone over 65,000 real estate agents, after most people refer to it as a multi-level marketing scheme that's going to go out of business before anybody else can say, well, it's creating millionaires. So now what? Now what do you do when someone like Juan Baronecci, okay, is turning around and at 28 years old, right? So I'm indirectly in Juan's downline, right? So Juan and I talk pretty frequently, and he's got such a mindset on it. Like, dude, he's going global. And he's going to reach 10,000 real estate agents in his downline. And that kind of passive income that he is not going to have to work for, it's never been seen in the real estate industry before, right? Keller Williams is a great model, but it's based off of the profit of the company, not the revenue of the company. Ours is based off the revenue of the company. So when you give the power back to the real estate agents, the way a company like EXP, and I don't think we're the last, we were the first, but I don't think we're the last, because when people catch on to what a virtual brokerage can do in a society like this, where we weren't shut down, right? Because Regus offices were deemed essential offices. So while most offices closed their doors on Long Island during COVID, theirs stayed open, right? So that is adapting to a changing marketplace, because like we tell everyone, like it's the Netflix to the Blockbuster. How many brokerages have that online presence so that when things shut down, they're ready to just transition from one to the next? And I don't think enough of them, especially here on Long Island. Maybe globally it's different, but here on Long Island, we're very set in our ways.
I think when you break it down, it's basic evolution. It's, 100 years ago, everybody worked on a farm, then the machines came out and nobody farmed anymore. We're doing 3D printed houses. In 20 years, you won't be swinging hammers. They'll be printing it out with machines. It's just either adapt or die, and it's universal to every industry.
And it's been quicker than most people anticipated it being. Because like back in 2007, when they were like, dude, you need to get on video. You need to get on video. You need to, and they were saying it, and everyone waited. Everyone was patient about it. No one rushed it.
They're still waiting, bro. How many?
Listen, I struggle with it. If you're watching this right now, DM me, call me out on it. Tell me, like, yo, Anthony, it's been like 5 days since your last post. Like, what's the deal? Like, I born in '84, I struggle with that cusp of like, let me go knock doors, because I am much better at. And Eric and I had this conversation on his podcast about, you do need to adapt, but you can't just abandon what's worked for you in the past. And I struggle to implement the change that we're speaking of, but I do embrace it wholeheartedly, because I will make the video. You will find me on TikTok. I am where I should be.
But I have to empathize with you and everybody else from the standpoint of like, it's also time. I mean, listen, I am not married. I do not have kids. I'm blessed to have an amazing 4-person staff. I have Emily, who is the scheduling Nazi, saying, post now, post now, post now, post now. And it's still very difficult. So, it's a lot of work, man.
But you had the courage to take that step and put your money into it. Right? Like, and I struggle with that all the time. And I say to myself, as an adapting real estate agent, you need to stop thinking about buying leads and take, $1,000 a month that you're spending on leads and throw it towards maybe some people for content creation,
that
maybe
I agree
some
with.
people for media,
100%.
and stuff like that. And that's,
you have to take a percentage of what you're doing and put it towards something else.
That's my biggest change.
And you really have to be quantifying, and I don't know, you may be doing this. You really have to be quantifying what you're making off of, your lead purchases.
We do it. And let me tell you something, like, nothing will ever be better than a personal referral. Nothing will ever be better than money prospected for, right? That is your best ROI as a real estate agent, okay? But certain leads have always paid well, right? Like, I don't know one person who's done Zillow and done Zillow well who hasn't turned around and said, like, look, I hate them, but the leads do make money if you know how to convert them properly, if you're buying enough of them, and if you don't over leverage, because there's like a tipping point with Zillow where you're spending more per month than you can physically make off the leads, because they don't deliver enough.
So I guess there's one or two things you can do there. You can either, live modestly. So if you're spending $5,000 a month on Zillow leads and you don't want to stop that because it's converting at a rate of whatever, and you've reached that apex of diminishing return, you either live modestly so you could take an extra $1,000 or $1,500 a month above and beyond that and put it into something experimental, or you have to believe in something else so much and actually have it work that you would take $1,000 from Zillow, take a hit in the first 6 to 12 months only to come back later.
And that I think that's the hardest part for most people to transition.
Without
and if
a
you
doubt.
find an experienced agent right now that's struggling with making that transition over, that's definitely the leap of faith. I call that the Indiana Jones moment, where you step onto the invisible bridge. You just you have to know it's there. I don't know that shooting into that barrel called social media is for everyone though, right? Like 100%. If I actually didn't get compliments on the video, I probably would just done. Like I'd probably just be done with them in the way that it was like, I know where I'm better at, and I'm better on the phone. Put me on the phone 8 hours a day, man, and I can prospect my ass off. So for me, but they work. I've gotten a lead or two off of them. I got a referral off of one. They work, I just don't do enough of them. So the minute I know that they work, it's like, all right, this is where I need to start spending my time.
It also depends on like your business model and what you're looking to do. So like if you're looking to open up a brokerage or you're looking to recruit, your public persona, like a Dan O'Neill type of person, that is something that makes sense. But so it all really depends on what kind of life you want to lead, what your business model is. You know, it's not for everybody.
No.
And, you know, I'm doing a deal with Luis Cardenas, and he's been doing social media for like 6 months. And somebody from Florida called him and said, yo, I saw your videos. You look like a great guy. Like, here's my house. Never met him, signed it up. He's never going to meet the guy. That's it. We're doing a deal.
Perfect.
So, but the question is, how often does that happen? How much time you put into it? It's not cut and dry. And I think like what we have to leave everybody with in this podcast now is we're not judging anybody.
No.
All we're doing is we're talking about the things that a lot of people don't want to talk about.
Right. And
we're encouraging people to just think outside the box and question whatever their current situation is.
And who you're following, right? Like please, I don't see enough videos on this. Mine will be coming out at the end of this month. So make sure you watch the video on how to interview your broker before making a decision on your next brokerage.
That's a good one.
I have 6 questions that you have to ask before you decide to work with somebody. You have to do it.
That's
you can't
dope.
just, they do not interview us. Let's leave on that note.
Yeah.
You do not get interviewed by a broker. You interview a broker.
Yes.
I don't care if it's your first day. I don't care if you just passed the class and you just walked out with your certificate. You interview that broker, and you have to ask these 6 questions. So check out my video. We'll go over that. But if you're not asking questions and you're not interviewing the guy that you're about to be working for, you're really going to regret it. And that's why a lot of people move too much.
So on that note, tell everybody again who you are, where you work, where they can find you on social media, and where they can reach out to you if they want to.
My social medias are very simple. Active Realtor on IG, Active Realtor on TikTok, Anthony Camardella on Facebook, Anthony Camardella with the A-team at eXp Realty. And I have a great team out in Suffolk County. I want to shout out every one of my team members because they are awesome, as well as my referral partners who always continue to deliver and do the right job. So thank you to all of them. Thank you for having me here, man.
Loved it, man. I really appreciate it. You blew it up. This was a good conversation.
Yeah, we'll see.
Obviously, I'm the Handsome Homebuyer. You have a house that smells like cat pee, dated from the 1960s, 6 inches of mold on the wall, whatever it is. I want to buy it. And obviously, if you have a permit issue, we'd appreciate it if you reached out to the captain. He's got you, or the whole team's got you. 516-513-8838. That's a wrap. Done, Big Left.
That's it.